Hello, it is October 2024 already, and I'm doing a review for the book that I read over the last month, which was this one. It's What Your Aches and Pains Are Telling You by Michel Odoul. I think that's pronounced. I don't know. And, if it's wrong, then I apologise, obviously. So he's French. So it might not be pronounced correctly. Okay, so I've really enjoyed this book. I've really loved it from start to finish, and it's given me a lot more things to think about and to look into in the future. I found this book just at the library. They're often sort of selling off books, and I love books, so I'm always having a look. And I saw this one, and I thought, oh, that's the sort of thing that appeals to me. I've already been interested through other people in these ideas around illness, and illness being caused by maybe sort of more spiritual or emotional things that are then coming out physically, which I think sometimes we do understand in illness, like sort of that if you're run down and things, you would get ill and stuff like that, or if you're not feeling great. But it's sort of taking it a step further and actually sort of saying that certain physical problems are related to specific aspects in your maybe mental or spiritual health, or how your world is that you need to look at and try and deal with. And then this book is really sort of taking it a step further than the other people that I've heard or read about, and being sort of more kind of scientific and specific with it about what areas of the body mean, and what problems and upsets and up to full-blown sort of illnesses or physical accidents in those areas mean, quite specifically in terms of where in your life you need to look and work out a problem, and also the sort of influences in your life that you may need to look at and form a better relationship with, and whether that's people or work or just the way that your idea of the world interacts with the world that you're finding around you. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot in here that I just feel like it just makes sense. So it's brilliant when you can read something and you think, that seems like it makes sense, and it's explained well, and it just, sounds good to me. So obviously the way that medical things are dealt with sort of mainstream in our culture is quite disconnected from any sort of spiritual or psychological side of people. It's very much about symptoms and treatments, and this is looking at more of a cause and effect sort of way of looking at health, which I also really like the idea of, because it just seems to make so much more sense to me and be much more of something that you can take some personal responsibility for and actually try to affect the things that are happening in your world, and even if you're struggling to actually get the effect that you want, to have a bit more understanding of where you need to focus. So it's really good. It's all about sort of listening to our bodies and using the discomforts that we have to understand our experiences, our emotions, and also our personality motifs, where we may, we always sort of have a bit of a weakness in dealing with that certain thing. Maybe, we're very sort of, when we run into something, we sort of get aggressive at it, or maybe we get too passive at it, things like that. Understanding who we are and how we deal with the world, and perhaps where we need to tweak things because it's not working for us, basically. And be able to look at things from a different angle. Also about sort of releasing those energies and tensions that have got stuck in certain places, where maybe we're holding on to things from the past, experiences, feelings about something that's happened, or people, or ideas that we need to change, we need to move forward with. So the book is very based on the ideas of Taoism, which is not something which I know a great deal about, to be honest, but it's definitely something that I want to look into further, because there was just so much in this book that seemed to make sense. And even when I specifically looked into certain paths of where I think, oh, that is something that I know I've had, or or somebody close to me has had, and then I've looked further and there will be other little things along that same line that we have also had, which just sort of show that there is obviously something there, and then trying to work it back to, okay, what was the feeling then? What was the experience? So yeah, it just seems to really work and make sense to me. So that's something I definitely want to have a look into more. I also actually the other day saw a book about reflexology, which I started flicking through and saw that is also using Taoism as a sort of basis for the sort of meridians of energy that run through the body and things. So it seems really interesting. Seems like a great thing to look into. I'll definitely look into that more. There was lots of good stuff in the book. So he sort of explains sort of his theory and where he's coming from, and how the ideas of Taoism and energy work, of sort of energy coming into the world through us, being channeled, different paths that it's channeled through us. And then he talks, the second half of the book is more specifically about actual problems in certain parts of the body. And he talks about the whole layout of the body, and how it sort of symbolises our interactions with the world, whether it's our actions through our arms, or our relationship to the world through our legs, and our place in it, and things like that, and what everything meant. And then he sort of goes, it's obviously only brief because it would take, a massive manual to go in detail of every sort of little ailment, but sort of talking about what problems goes through sort of different parts of the body, upper arm, elbows, lower arm, and same thing on the legs and the organs, and just briefly where in your life that's coming from. Okay, so one part of the body might be to do with your deeply held ideas of how the world should be, and you've got an issue there because something you believe is not how you're experiencing it in the world. So maybe you need to change your beliefs to better fit into the world that you're finding around you. So it's really, really good. One of the other things that I really noticed reading this book was how many little things that I have personally that I just ignore. Sort of little irritations that I'm assuming that we all do that. Little things that you kind of don't even notice because you just ignore them. Whether it's, I'll have to think of something sort of, I don't know, whether it's creaky joints or an ache somewhere, or some little thing where you've had a regular irritating small thing. So maybe with me they're not getting to a full-blown illness or disease, although I have had some things. That was one of the good things as well about the book, that you can look back. So I've previously fractured both my ankles, and looking back at what was going on in my life then that I needed to try and put in place with my relationship to the world and how I am in it and the decisions I'm making in it, and that was very enlightening. But there's also as well a lot of much smaller little illnesses and things that you may have ongoing. I don't know, it could be like an ingrown toenail on a certain toe that represents something, or getting lots of colds, or a particular type of thing like a phlegmy sore throat, what that would more specifically indicate. It's really, really interesting. I definitely think that it's really wonderful to be able to look at health in a much bigger way, and just try and find answers that work. That should be the the real goal. And I think there's so much in our medical system that doesn't work. I mean, I don't really use it very much. I'm a bit of a, I sort of I don't really look to authority much. So I will try and deal with things on my own, but I obviously understand, things that people are going through, and I am lucky I don't have any serious health issues that I would need to rely on. Perhaps sometimes it's just not really understanding the full reasons, the full situation of why symptoms and illnesses and accidents are occurring, and what the underlying thing of that is. So you can deal with it in a bit more of a personal way of trying to actually make the changes within you, rather than relying on really, you know, a medicine that's going to mask those symptoms. I think that's what would be really healthy for people to be able to move away from. Yeah, obviously I don't want to knock medical science too much because I do walk lovely after my 2 fractured ankles, and I am very, very grateful to medical science for the things that they have helped me in that sense. But there are also other things, some of these small niggling things, which the reason I don't go to a doctor is because I know what a doctor will do. They will write me a prescription for something that I don't want to take, specifically not on a long-term basis. So it's great to be able to look at these in a different way and try to take responsibility for ourselves. Also, Taoism's like proper old, so I kind of think that, you know, sometimes these people knew what they were talking about. Not always, just because it's old, it, you know, has to be right or anything. But sometimes you can look at these things and you think, I think these people, they've really thought about this a lot. And not just one person. It's like a lot of people have thought about this a lot. And there's probably something in it. It's like when I read the autobiography of a yogi. And Yogananda is talking about Hinduism. And it's like, there's a lot of wisdom here, and this stuff is old, and these people were thinking about it over generations. And you know what? I think they probably worked some stuff out that it would be really, really useful for us now to utilise. You know, instead of thinking that perhaps we're at the forefront of human knowledge, which is quite a hubristic and really naive thought to have, that maybe other people had some pretty good ideas about stuff as well. Again, doesn't mean you should just follow blindly, but then I don't believe in following blindly of anything that anyone says. But there was definitely a lot of things in this book that really just seemed to make really good logical sense. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to go over certain areas where I did think these things probably do affect me, and I should look into them more and understand this area more and work on it a bit more. So I definitely want to do that, and I definitely want to look into Taoism further, and probably reflexology, because it's all very interesting and worth a try. So this is the book again. It was really, really good. It was also really easy to read. It was very nicely laid out. So when I did start reading this book, I'll be honest, I did just skip to anything. I was like, oh, I wonder what that means. And you can do that. You can just look up, oh, I wonder what that specific thing means. It's very easy to navigate and get around and get to specific areas that you may want to focus on a bit closer before you actually get to them in the book. So it was very easy to do that. And I definitely recommend it. Yeah. So the book that I am reading now is this one, which is Young and Damned and Fair by Gareth Russell. And this is about Catherine Howard, who was a wife of Henry VIII. And I'm really enjoying that as well. Tudors are just so fascinating. So I will be back next month to do a review for that book, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Okay, thank you.